It's 22 minutes then to 11. Now, if you're anything like me when you're cooking in the kitchen, you're probably spending hours carefully following the instructions in recipe books, only to find the results barely resemble the gorgeous-looking photos on the page. Well, last time I tried making beef Wellington, for instance, it looked more like a Wellington boot. Anyway, Leicester-based graphic artist Helen Ashley has a different take on food photography and has devised a cookbook with a difference. She's the author of Recipes from the Kitchen Drawer, which is a fully illustrated cookbook, and it's got its own original and distinctive style. And I'm pleased to say Helen is here this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael.
I've got it in front of me here. It is distinctive. Is it unique as far as you know?
As far as I'm aware, there are obviously illustrations in cookery books that have happened in the past. The closest thing to that is a book by Len Deaton, the detective writer, who did a series of comic strips or cook strips. But nothing like my drawings, nothing that takes the comic book language, the language of the graphic novel, and turns it into a recipe.
Okay, it's a graphic cookbook, in other words, and if we open a page, kedgeree, for example, which is on page 35, what you have is on the left-hand side, you have the ingredients, number of people it will serve, and so on. There is an awful lot of information at the front of the book about measurements, so on, by the way. And then on the right, a fully descriptive, graphic idea of the stages of creating and cooking this dish. It's simple and effective, isn't it?
Yes, I hope so. The idea was to produce drawings that were simple enough for anyone to feel like they could cook. I don't want people to be intimidated by my recipe book at all. So in terms of its target audience, it would be for people like students, young people who are just starting out in kitchens.
Was it your idea?
It was, yes.
So you can take all the credit for this?
I guess I can.
What I like about it is, you're right, for anybody, maybe youngsters, some of these recipes, even with adult supervision, children could do, for instance.
Yes.
But also, for anybody, coming home after a busy day, who wants to do something quickly, efficiently, and simply. It's easy to understand and to do, isn't it?
Yes, it really is. I've offered a range of different dishes as well. So there are main courses, there are side dishes, there are puddings, there are soups, for fun, other times fun kind of cakes, biscuits, breads. So.
Yeah. Now this is one particular project, but first and foremost, are you a cook or a graphic artist?
That's a tricky question. I've been many things. At the moment I would say I'm a graphic artist.
Right.
Yes. I trained as an architect, which is why I suppose a lot of those images are so precise.
Yeah. I can see that now that you mention it.
Yes. And then worked as an exhibition designer for museums around the UK and also in America. And most recently I've been working as an illustrator.
Right. So you have no cooking expertise as such in training, you just love cooking, do you?
Yes, yes. And I've been cooking
or eating,
since
one of the two.
Both, really. I've been cooking since I was a child, so my parents encouraged me to cook from a very early age. And I think actually quite a lot of the recipes in the book are ones that I grew up with.
Well, I have to say, it doesn't matter whether it's a simple cookbook without any illustrations or a very expensive hardback with lots of lavish photography. You have to do all of the recipes. You have to make these meals to know that it works and to actually, go through the process. So it's not as easy as just writing down a few ingredients and drawing a few pictures, is it?
It's not. I did a lot of research into the recipes I used. For each one, I made each of the dishes. I took photographs of them before I drew them. I separated all of the instructions into the sections that you see in the book, the different frames, and pulled it all together in a kind of an illustration of a tabletop or a kitchen, or in some cases just the dish that it's being cooked in.
Yeah, it has a feel of I don't know, 1950s, 1960s cookbook somehow. I don't know why, for me, as a child of the 60s. And I'm looking at rhubarb fool, which looks magnificent. I also like the look of the gooseberry crumble, by the way.
Yes.
And, I mean, there are so many excellent recipes in here. As somebody picking up the book for the first time, I think they ought to really work from the front to back over a period of a few weeks, maybe, and try everything, shouldn't they?
They absolutely could. The idea actually came from a series of 12 magnetic recipes that I sent to friends and family, and so this book has 52 recipes in, so it's one a week if you want to look at it that way.
You could do the whole thing in a year then, couldn't you? Just under a year. The nice thing as well, it's set out in courses as well, isn't it? Starting with soups and through the main courses, onto puddings and cakes and biscuits and bread and so on. So there is, you can create a full meal there, or do whatever you want, or just take individual recipes out and do them in isolation.
Absolutely, really. It's very open to interpretation. You can also mix up the recipes. So, for instance, you mentioned gooseberry crumble earlier. You could use the crumble mixture, but use any other different types of fruit. It could be apple and blackberry, or plum crumble. Or, yes,
absolutely. It's not just English cuisine either, is it? I mean, there's a lot of European. There's some New Orleans, Baton Rouge jambalaya from the deep south. So kedgeree I mentioned already, of course. Some Italian stuff in there as well. Is this a book of your favourite recipes, effectively?
I wouldn't say favourites, but they are ones that I'm very familiar with. In the future, I hope to do a couple more books, and I think one of those will involve definitely my favourite cuisine, which is, I have to say, American diner food. Really? So, yes, well, I'm showing kind of my history of living in the States for a bit.
You're speaking, actually, you're talking to the converted on that one, because, I'm a bit of a sucker for that as well.
Yes, American classics is the idea.
Absolutely. So. And have you got any cornbread in here?
I haven't. I'm saving that for the American classics book.
Are you? Is that going to be in there?
It will be.
Because I will be buying that.
Yes,
if cornbread is in there. I love cornbread. I mean, there is all sorts of themes of books that you could produce, but will you carry on with the same sort of design approach?
Yes, definitely. I really do think that it's a good way to get recipes across, that it's not intimidating. It's a simple form of recipe that hopefully is simple enough to cook for anyone.
Well, it's reasonably priced as well. It's out and available now, priced at £10, and it's published by Square Peg through Random House, and is available and in the shops now. Before you go, I've got to ask you, since you worked in museum services here in the States, and you've heard all about Richard III in our city today, which is in our news, that would be an amazing project, wouldn't it be, to create an exhibition around the findings if a visitor centre or something were created in Greyfriars. It would be an amazing project, wouldn't it?
It really would be, actually. And I liked your last listeners' suggestions about using the shop fronts for some kind of story about Richard III as well, and the history of the royal family up until that point in this country. I think if we could move as fast as possible on building a visitor centre, that would work very well. There's a lot of momentum at the moment, and if it could carry on, that would be awesome.
Well, taking exhibitions out of museums and into the community is another way of looking at it, and the use of shop fronts and so on to promote the fact that we're proud of this find, and to bring people up to date with the history would be a great idea, wouldn't it?
I really do think so. Yes.
And you mentioned the stuff that you've done. What sort of exhibitions have you worked on in the past?
I worked on a number in the States, also some in this country. I helped a little bit with the Space Museum here in Leicester.
Right.
Also worked at the New York Public Library, the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York as well. Some museums up in New Haven in the US.
Very rewarding.
It really was, yes. It's that blend between three-dimensional work, tying in my architectural training with graphic design, which I've always been interested in, which then links into the book with the use of text and the illustrations.
I mean, this is different, though, isn't it? You can stand back and look at your work in an exhibition, rather like a gallery, if you like, a gallery of your own artwork. With this, once it's published, it's gone out to other people. You can't even see their reaction when they pick it up. Has the reaction been good to the book, by the way, in terms of reviews and so on?
It really has, yes. It only came out on Thursday, but so far there have been a number of really good reviews.
Excellent.
And there's nothing like going to a bookshop and seeing your own work on the bookshelves.
So if you go into a bookshop in Leicester today and you see a strange woman staring at you, if you pick up this particular book, Recipes from the Kitchen Drawer, you'll know that it's Helen Ashley. Listen, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
Wish you all the best with this. Again, it's priced at £10. It's available and in the shops now. It's written by Helen Ashley and designed by her as well. It's called Recipes from the Kitchen Drawer.